Welcome back for another episode of the Nation80 Podcast. This is episode 34. This is your boy Rod, and I'm here with Mike. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, Rodney, back here for another episode, and man, I'm glad that you are bathed in the nice weather of Hawaii. It's snowing here again, but it's kind of a tease because it snows and then it gets warm, and then it snows again, and it's like, when can we just get a break? When can I just go outside, read some comics, and chill? Like,
well, what makes it interesting was, like, I believe last week there was supposed to be a massive snowstorm coming through, and it ended up being, from my understanding, it ended up being fairly good weather that weekend.
Yep, never hit.
So
it's never hit us.
Never hit. And then now you're telling me it's snowing. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, stay warm. It's definitely winter in Hawaii. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean the temperature of the weather is bad, but it means we get a lot of rain. So you're talking about almost 30 days straight of rain, one way or another, throughout the day, and it starts pouring pretty hardcore around here. But I have no complaints. Anyway, let's Mike, as always, let's talk about what we are digging this week. I started off last week, so why don't you start off this week? What have you been digging this week?
Yeah, so as always, I have been as always, I've been into my Steam Deck. I've been wanting to get into The Mandalorian, but we've had some logistical issues this week. We've seen the first episode. We just haven't had time to get the entire family together. We had a moral dilemma. Elias wasn't with us. It comes out every Wednesday, and Elias wasn't with us. So, well, he was, but he had competition practice for his MMA club, and so then the next day we didn't have him, and so I told Jen, I was like, "Should we watch Mandalorian without Elias?" And she's like, it's a dicey move. He's a preteen. I don't know if we're ready to deal with that. I'm like, all right. So we're watching that today with the whole family. But as far as the Steam Deck, I mentioned offline, I've been trying to hold back on making big ticket purchases, and instead I've been making more backlog purchases, which included Tunic, which is a fantastic indie game. It's basically Zelda. It's a top-down 3D isometric Zelda game, but with a fox, I guess. And it plays just like Zelda. But the one unique thing about it is that you don't get any tutorial. Okay. You're left to figure out the game on your own, and you collect pages of the actual instruction manual. And it's like the old school instruction manual from back in the day, where you're flipping through all these pages and you're learning how to do certain moves and learning about the world that you're in. Really reminded me back in the day, back in the early 90s, mid 90s, video games, and how those instructions came with the actual game. And so it's pretty cool. The art's very, very good. The action is very good. The only problem I did have, Rodney, unfortunately, like 99% of fantasy games, I'm wandering through this forest and I hear just the worst noise possible, and then damn spiders come out. I see one spider, and then I got jumped by like 3 or 4 spiders at the same time. And I was at work when this happened. I almost dropped my Steam Deck on the floor. I was like, oh God. So I haven't played it yet since. But it is a really good game. So Tunic, check it out. I also got Immortals Phoenix Rising. It's a game that I've had on the Nintendo Switch, but I don't play it over there anymore, and I've wanted to play it more often. That one is kind of like I guess again, it's like a Zelda, um, Breath of the Wild, but in Greek mythology and with characters that actually talk. And so it's a really fun game, really fun game. And then this week, or yeah, I guess earlier this week, uh, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the 2018 remaster came to Steam. And so I was super excited. I haven't played this game. I had heard nothing but great things of the remaster. So I decided to buy it. Uh, and it was on discount. That was another factor for me. So I didn't buy it at full price, Rodney. I bought it at like $30. Um, Tried to boot it up.
That's not bad at all.
No, not for yeah, for $30, I thought that's a good deal. But I tried to boot it up and it just kept returning me back to the main screen. It does not work. It is broken right now on Steam. There are no compatibility layers. There are no special commands that you could do to get this working on Steam. The only way to play it on the Steam Deck is if you actually buy it from the Activision website or launcher, and then play it on Windows. You have to
Mm.
literally put Windows on your Steam Deck in order for that to work. So I'm not willing to do that. I'll just wait until they fix the problem. Um, but the last game I bought was Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I haven't played Final Fantasy Rodney since PlayStation 2. And I love that game back in the day when I had time to play it. Final Fantasy games are those games that you can spend hundreds of hours in. Uh, and so I loved it back in the day. Hadn't gotten into it since because I have transitioned to non-turn based RPGs. Uh, and so that's why I never really got back into Final Fantasy. But the difference with this Final Fantasy VII remake was that they got rid of the turn-based tactics and they made it an action RPG. And they did it, but they also incorporated a way for you to not do turn-based, but as you're attacking and you fill up your meter to do special attacks or abilities, uh, you can direct your other members in your team to do their special abilities or magic or whatever, while the action is still going. It's going in slow motion, so you have a very limited amount of time to do that. So I did record some gameplay footage this morning of it, so I'll be hoping to post that sometime this week. But Final Fantasy VII Remake looks great. I'm running it at 40 frames per second on the Steam Deck, and it's absolutely beautiful. I did have to do some tweaking because it is a verified game on Steam Deck. However, the developers, for some reason, put in dynamic resolution into the game that the only way it can be taken out is if you clip the game down to 30 frames per second. And at 30 frames per second, the game doesn't exactly run smoothly. You try to go to 60, it puts on that dynamic resolution, and everything just kind of looks very smooth and pastel looking, and it didn't look great. So I actually had to go into I had to get a mod, and it was a real simple mod. It literally took me 2 minutes to get it, um, install it, put it in whatever folder it needed to be put into. It disabled the dynamic resolution throughout the entire game, and I was able to play it at 40 frames per second. And it's buttery smooth. The action is freaking amazing. I love the environment. I love that all the characters talk. It's just, man, it's a joy. I'm maybe 2 hours into the game right now, but it's a fun game. So I did pick that one up, and did I pick that one up at full price? Probably. I know it's terrible, but I
Mhm.
really wanted that game, and after the disappointment of Call of Duty, I needed a win. So Final Fantasy has definitely done that for me, and yeah, man, that's what I've been playing this week. Final Fantasy 7. Oh, and you know what, Rodney? I completely forgot, but man, I did go back to my Nintendo Switch.
Oh,
Um,
did you?
I did, for one specific game, and that was Metroid Prime, the
Mhm.
remaster that came out. And so everybody was talking about it. I have it emulated on my Steam Deck, and gave it a try. And I thought, okay, it's not bad. But everybody was hyping this game up as amazing. And so I was like, man, let me see what the hype is. So I bought Metroid Prime for the Switch. I finally booted it up. I haven't played my Switch in forever, of course. Literally had to steal my dock back from Elias, um, even though he still has my Joy Cons. So I just docked it up at work, put it on my monitor at work, and Man, it's a fun game. I don't know if you've ever played Metroid Prime back in the day. This was a GameCube game. I've never had a GameCube. Never played GameCube games back in the day, and this was this is lauded as the best GameCube game ever. And so um, I had to try it, and I've not been disappointed. It's great. It controls great. The graphics are amazing. What they did to make it look better, just it looks really really good.
Yeah, I've never played a Metroid game ever. Um, and and to be fair with you, I don't know why that's the case. It's one of those things, kind of like how people look at like CS:GO or a few other games where I feel like I missed the wagon and I missed the train and I never got back on, or never even attempted to get on to try to check it out or whatever. Like if we're going to talk about the legendary Nintendo games, let's say that's Zelda, Mario, and Metroid. The one that's probably gotten a higher percentage of that is probably been Mario,
Hmm.
and Zelda is a further away second, because the only game that I ever really played for Zelda was Ocarina of Time, or
Ocarina of
Ocarina.
Time. Yep,
Yeah, yep.
yep.
And
On the
then
64. Yeah,
and it's by far one of my favorite games.
yep.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but then I played the Zelda game that came out, Breath of the Wild, that came out for the Nintendo Switch, and I don't know. I won't act like I'm sure it's fun. I just lost interest really fast, and I don't know why. Um,
Let me ask you a question real quick.
mhm,
You really liked Ocarina of Time. I loved
yes,
that game. The N64 was one of my favorite systems growing up as a kid.
same.
We had GoldenEye, we had Mario
Yep,
64, we had Ocarina of Time, we had
yep.
Perfect Dark. We had a lot of really good games. Um,
Hmm.
and now, so I have as well. I have Breath of the Wild. It was the first game I bought for the Switch,
Hmm.
and um, and at the time, I didn't realize that was not a Switch exclusive. That was a Wii U game that they just ported over.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, it's a port. It's not even an original Switch game. It's a port from. In fact, like most of the games that launched for the Switch were ported over from the Wii U.
Jeez,
uh, like Mario Kart. That Mario Kart 8 is not an original Switch game. That's a Wii U game.
it's
Um,
very telling how bad the Wii U was selling.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So like you, I thought my initial impression of Breath of the Wild was amazing. I loved it.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
after a few hours, I fell off of it and I just never played it again. Um,
Hmm.
Not because it wasn't a good game, but because it's a game that requires a lot of time. A lot of
Hmm.
time. It's an exploring game. Okay.
Yep.
Um, with Metroid, so you get this term Metroidvania thrown out a lot with games now.
Hmm.
So the Metroid Castlevania games have this one very specific theme to it, which is explore your environment. You don't know where you're going to go. Memorize that environment because you might have to go back to other places that you have to unlock later on by gaining skills and abilities or items, um, and take on bigger enemies. And so originally with the 2D Metroid games, I just never really understood them because I hadn't really
Hmm.
played Metroid games back in the day. Never really played them. I just didn't understand them. I was like, I don't understand. I didn't even know it was a chick. I thought it was a dude. Um, and
Hmm.
like, nah, bro, it's a chick. And I was like, oh, um, not that this dissuaded me from playing it, but I just didn't
No,
understand the
you're
game.
in the same boat as me, because I didn't know anything about the lore. And to be
Yeah.
honest with you, the only reason I even know the name Mother Brain is there was a Nintendo cartoon back in the day, and the villain was Mother Brain.
Mm,
And then so I assumed that because of that cartoon, that's how Mother Brain looked, until I remember years later there was a screenshot of Mother Brain from Metroid, and they look completely different. And so I
Mm,
was like,
mm.
I have no clue what's going on with Metroid, but it's, to be fair, it's just one of those things where, like, when I was coming up, it was all about NBA Live,
Yep.
Madden.
Yeah. NBA Live, Madden. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll even throw John Elway football in there for a hot minute. Sports Talk Baseball,
Mm-hmm. Oh, sports talk
Sonic.
baseball.
Let's see what else was out there that was a jam for me at the time. Even though it wasn't my jam, Tomb Raider was big, Tekken was big. Oh, sorry, that's too far yet. Let's go back. Okay, so going, like, let's say the N64 slash, yeah, let's go N64. It was always Mario. It was the Zelda game. I don't even think a Metroid game came out for the Nintendo 64. And if it
Mm.
did, I never played it. GoldenEye was a big deal. Then they still had Madden, but Madden was definitely not Madden on the Nintendo 64.
Right. Right.
And that was it. And after that, it went to the Dreamcast for me, at least. And then I played the PlayStation 1 just a little bit with Metal Gear, Final Fantasy 7, and but yeah, it was, again, it's been one of those things where it's like I should play this, but then I don't end up playing it, and then
Right.
I just forget it. And then, to be honest, it's because it's exclusive to Nintendo as I get older. Because Mike, you tell me all the time about how you configure your Steam Deck for this, and you configure your Steam Deck for that. And my kind of rule about it. I'm not necessary. It's not that I'm not interested. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I like to just pick up and play,
Mm-hmm.
and trying. And then I do have a Switch, but my Switch is sitting in my closet dead as a doorknob because I don't play it
Right.
whatsoever.
Right.
And the fact, and we've had this conversation, I think we literally have this conversation every week, is that I don't like the fact that I can't pick up a game, hit you up, connect, play with you, not be connected to the rest of the internet, and enjoy myself.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't do that, I'm definitely not interested. And the reason I'm saying these things is because Nintendo is the worst at it.
Right.
So
Right.
we went and played Marvel Alliance, and we literally had a FaceTime audio going on
Yeah,
while we
it's
were
ridiculous.
connected to our Nintendo Switch, and that was
Elias
it
does
so
this right
simple.
now. He does this right now
Yeah.
when he's playing Fortnite or any of the other games on his Switch. He's FaceTiming
Hmm.
his friends
Yeah.
because there's
And
no natural. It's not like PlayStation or
hmm.
Xbox where you can get into a game, get into chat. It's not like when you're on your PC and we can go into Steam or even Discord and just get on a chat.
Yeah.
It's not fluid. It's not. It doesn't feel natural. Nintendo
Yep.
wants you to get their app. Well, why would I get their
Yep.
app? I might as well just FaceTime this dude.
Yeah. Well, and what makes it funny is because us talking about me, you, and Brandon, we did this since the original Xbox, having that little janky headset that was super flimsy if we want to, keep it 100%, that used to
Hmm.
connect to your controller, and we
Hmm.
had a blast. So it's not like this is like, you know, new technology Nintendo needs to come out with. The technology is already there. I'm not asking them to be. I think the problem is, it's like, for example, PlayStation and Microsoft are this one-stop shop for entertainment now, right? So you have it for games, you have it for TVs, you have it for movies. I believe they even do music, and they do all this in one ecosystem. And Nintendo try I think they sell movies now and TV shows, but they try to keep it just kind of games. But they, like, for example, to me, the Switch is one of the most amazing inventions to come out for console gaming.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but I can also say the same thing about the Wii, but we also know that Nintendo doesn't seem to finish the ideal, right?
Right.
The ideal is fantastic, but then they missed the mark on something. Like the Wii, the mark was, hey, I like your library of games where I need to get up and move around, but what about if I don't want to do that? Do you
Right.
have any good games for that?
Right.
Right? And don't and their third party library was horrible. And then the Switch has, I'll say they have and you can speak better to this. They have an up and down third party library. Some games have ported well, others have not. You know, the of course Nintendo exclusives, they sell well, but my gripes, that game, I'm sure Zelda, if I look right now, is probably still $50, and it's
Oh
over
yeah.
7
Yeah,
years.
they rarely discount that game, and you're never gonna get like a 40-50% discount on
No,
first
no.
party, games from Nintendo.
No, but I can go on Steam and literally, a game that came out, let's say 2, 3 years ago, is now $7. And I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
it's always that there's no tug of war anymore. Like I know who
Right.
wins that war for me, and it's Steam, because if there was a game that I was ever interested in, or like I know for you, Mike, because you bought a lot of games on your Nintendo Switch, and now you find them on Steam, and they're going for $3, $5, $10, 15, 20, at drastic discounts. Of course, you're going to purchase it. You know,
Mhm.
so you know it. I eventually I would love to get into. Let's just say it this way: I would love to get into Metroid and all these other things. I think it's too late to play like the original NES version of Metroid,
Right.
because
Right.
there's certain games I've tried to go back and play, and I'm like, yeah, it's just moves too slow now. Like, remember Double Dragon? I guarantee you, if I play Double Dragon, no, excuse me, Double Dragon might be fun, but I'm Duck Hunt, or even the original Super Mario Brothers, I might be like, okay, I'm going to skip this one and kind of progress in the future a little bit,
Right. There are
instead
certain
of
games that age well,
yeah.
and then there's some that just don't.
Hmm.
I could never go back to playing. Maybe I remember there was the Metroid game that was on the Game Boy Advance. I remember I
Mm,
had that for a while. I don't know where it is anymore. Um, and I remember that being kind of cool. Uh,
hmm.
but I don't know if I could play all the other ones. I played this Metroid Prime one, because it was so different. It's not the 2D scrolling one. It was their first time going to a 3D platform type of game, and
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. But I think, but the way it's set up, like I'll get through this game eventually. It's entering
Hmm.
the backlog. I'll get through it eventually, but it is one of those games that you have to kind of explore, and you have to really enjoy the game. You have to scan objects to get the backstory, because they don't just tell you what happened. So
Right.
like right now you're on a planet. It starts off on a battle station or a research station. Stuff goes down. You crash land on the planet, and then you're going, what happened to the civilization, and what's going on, and you're constantly scanning stuff, and that's cool and all. But I think where you and I are at right now, so for all like the 40 somethings out there that have kids, that have spouses, that have a career, you don't have that much time to game. So, like how you said, you need something that's a pick up and play. Okay.
Hmm.
There are certain days where I'm just like, you know what? I'm not gonna play anything. I'm just gonna do what I need to do to the Steam Deck, so that after I do it to that, then these games will either work better, play better, or I have more access to. Um,
Hmm.
and so like for in my case, like emulation, I literally set aside a day to do emulation, and it was not to play emulation. It was to gather up my library, whether it was burning games or whatnot, um, and then setting up my Steam Deck, setting up the library, setting up the art, setting it up how I want it to be set up, and then so that when I start my week, uh, I can just go in and be like, oh, cool, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna play that, without having to worry about settings and this and that or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
and so, like, uh, I think where we're kind of at right now, and I imagine a lot of people in our age group uh, are at right now, is and I see this on from YouTubers who are our age, right? Um, they just don't have the time to play these 100-hour games.
Mm.
Like, I hear people like, "Oh, well, the game's only 20 hours." Cool. Miles Morales is a shorter game than Spider-Man. That's fine. I don't
I
have that
mean,
much time.
if the story is good and the action is fun, I'm
Yeah.
down. I don't.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I don't have a problem with 100-hour game per se. It's just not in my house of cards anymore, like I want it to be. You know?
Well, and I guess 100 hours, it depends on it, right? You've put
Hmm.
hundreds of hours into 2K.
Yep.
I put hundreds of hours into Madden. Um, but those are very much pick up, play the game, call it a day. Like
Yeah.
there's a
Actually,
immediate satisfaction.
I will add, and I think these are two games that I will say kind of squeeze through those barriers: Spider-Man and Horizon Dawn. Because I feel the game is so fun, I want to do everything in the game. And I
Okay.
didn't end up hitting almost the 100-hour mark, finding the little trophies or doing whatever little side missions that come in the game, right? And but those are very rare. But those
Right.
games are so action packed that I enjoy it because and I want to, like, Spider-Man was so much fun swinging through the city that I was picking up, like, what's that? Those things. I was taking pictures of stuff, and I'm like, I
Oh,
would
right. Yeah.
never, I would never in any other game do this, but for some reason, I was just having a blast doing it in Spider-Man. And then Horizon Dawn, man, I was jacking those robots up, and I couldn't stop doing it. So, but yes, I agree with you, Mike. Those two are rare for me personally, but other than that, a sports game, absolutely. But Mike, that brings to a good point since you mentioned that, because uh, we were talking about the stuff we did this week. I went back and started playing NBA 2K 23
Okay.
again, and I tried to give it another go. And I will say, as far as something just to play around, the feeling is still there, but it's nothing like it used to be.
Hmm.
And it's because it still kind of goes back to me, the animations, the characters. It seems like there's a downgrade there. It doesn't give me that pop like even I think NBA 2K22 was pretty decent for what I use it for, and a few other iterations are decent, but this one still just feels kind of off, right? So I've played, I think, 2 games within, like, yesterday and the day before, and it was cool. I played it on my normal level, but there was no, like back in not even back in the day. Last year, NBA 2K, the excitement be so strong that I would play a couple games every night. You
Hmm.
know, I would play, like, let's say, into the first half. If I'm up by 20, then I would simulate and then start up another game. And these don't do it for me at all. I don't
Hmm.
know. It's just I it's just not there yet. And so I would still say that this is by far one of the worst of the franchise
Really?
after, yeah, I think so. And t- like I said, and I'm playing, what is it? My league, and or my GM, excuse me. And to me, that's always been my favorite part: going around, cutting trades, setting up my team, playing a couple games, try to get them in the playoffs, and I might play the playoffs. That's always been my thing, Mike. I've been doing that for well over a decade, and this is the first time I just feel like, yeah, this ain't it. This ain't it.
Really?
You know,
Okay.
and to be fair, since a decade, they keep on trimming the fat on those features, right? So, and when I'm saying like that, it's like they used to have these parts where you're talking to players, you're talking to your assistant coaches, and you're trying to set up things for what this player is going to do and that player does. And I know some people didn't necessarily like those animations, but you could have still worked to tweak them and make them more fun. Instead, they just kind of like, well, they don't like them, we're just cutting that out of there. And so you
Hmm.
got this more cold rendition of my GM, where you're not even really, it's just you. There's no like interaction. You're not, you don't even know when your player doesn't like being on the team anymore, right? It's just
Really?
a little
Okay.
cat. Yeah,
I'm
you know,
tracking. I'm tracking.
you remember back in the day when your player be like, you know what, I'm not getting the minutes here. I want to be traded, and then you're like, okay, and you, well, let's try to work this out, you know, or something like that. And that's used to what kind of used to make it fun. Like I remember like let's say you take the trade parameters off, so you had like 390 rating players on the same team. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have enough ball for all three of them, right? So like two
Mm.
of them is scoring over 20 points, other one's only getting 12, and he's like, "Yo, I'm out." You know, like I want out. And you know, he starts to become a cancer to the team. The team starts to, what is it? The morale starts to drop, their chemistry starts to drop.
Yep.
You know, none of
Yep.
that's there anymore. And that's unfortunate to me
Huh.
because that's part of the thing that to me makes it kind of fun was that you had to you had to juggle these players to set up a system that it would work. There's, you know, of course, there's always that one complicated player. I would have a rookie sometimes that's not even a first round rookie, like a second round rookie. And he's like, you know what? I'm not signing here at the end of the year. And you're just like, man, I'm trading your ass right now. Like, I'm not dealing with this mess. You know, and that's what used to be to me what made NBA 2K kind of captivating because I don't do online play. I borderline refuse to do online play, you
Right.
know. So for me, it was always my league or my GM where I would just go in there and see what it took to take care of a team. And I don't even know if you remember, Mike, but a couple years ago, you used to be able to set the prices for the stadium. You used to, especially like if you were a small market team, you had a smaller budget, so you couldn't get the same coaches as like New York could. You had to work that out. Then the owner would eventually come to you and he'd be like, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling. You want to buy the team?" You know,
Mm-hmm.
all none of that's there anymore, and that
Huh.
sucks. You know, that just to me is unfortunate. But another thing that I've been kind of, let's talk about, since that's kind of negative. Let's talk about what I've been digging this week. Started playing the the Batman Arkham series this week.
Okay.
Starting with
Okay.
Arkham Asylum, right? And you know, I'm just gonna say Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill made that game shine in ways that you can't, you can just never understand if you weren't there,
It's a special game.
right?
It's a
Yeah.
special game.
And the reason I say that is because Michael knows, just like me, we both grew up on Batman the animated series. And so all that, you know, simply just putting those two voices into the game, you already had me hooked. Whether the animations weren't great or the fighting style wasn't great, but they were great. And that was the bonus to it, is that we got a great game. You know, there's nothing more fun than being perched on a gargoyle and you look down below and you see 8 different villains and you're like, oh, I'm about to tear them up. And so you go down there, or you know, you do it silent, or you know, and you know, of course, Batman and his gadgets and stuff like that. But you know, I didn't play it too long, but I played it long enough that it's like, yeah, this game is still, it's still fun. I can't wait to dive deeper into it. And to be fair, you know, that game came out well over, I believe that game came out when I was at my end in Korea, or maybe Qatar. That's 2015. And or no, excuse me, I think that game came out in 2011, something like that. But that game still looks beautiful. Like it looks good for, you
Yeah.
know, and now I have
2010.
a, yeah, see,
2010 is when it came out. Yeah.
and that game still looks good with its graphics and
It's
it's
aged
aged
very
quite
well.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I've really been digging that. I haven't really watched much TV this past week or movies, but there's a lot of stuff that I would like to watch. I did try to watch that movie We Have a Ghost last night with David Harbour and the, let's see, who's my boy Anthony Mackie's in it as well. It's on
Hmm.
Netflix.
Okay.
It's about a family, black family. They move into this this fixer upper, and there's a ghost who's played by David Harbour in there, and he's lost his memory and he can't speak. And let's just say hilarity ensues from there. Now,
Okay.
I was kind of in and out watching it, not because it was bad or anything, but I was kind of texting someone on my phone. But I will say that anytime my children are vested, it's a good sign. And my oldest was vested in the movie. My youngest, I don't think she understood some of the jokes, so she kind of like checked out halfway through the movie. But you know, when a movie like that comes on, you're hoping that your family is going to watch it. Mike, I'm sure you deal with it too with Elias, but you can it's usually the measuring stick if they're going to watch something or not, because if they're bouncing around and they're looking everywhere else, you know good and well that that movie is not hitting the chord that you wanted to hit in your household. And
Hmm.
you're either going to turn on something else or you're going to just turn it off completely. But yeah, so that was what we got into, you know.
So real quick, Rodney, 2 points. Because I've been
Uh-huh.
thinking about this a lot, especially
Uh-huh.
when you're talking about 2K. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the first being, I get what you're talking about as far as like the nostalgia and the things that they've taken out and you can't do anymore. It makes me think
Mm-hmm.
about Madden right now. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, I haven't played the newest Madden. I'm on Madden 22,
Okay.
and I absolutely love this game because I could do all of those things that you're missing out on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I have players who literally come up to me and they're like, "Man, bro, I need more receptions. Man, I need more carries. I need to get some sacks. Like." And I'm always like struggling, like I don't give a damn about what you want, man. It's about the team.
Yeah.
But like you said,
Yeah.
but you bringing that up made me really appreciate the game because and I'm always getting questions from reporters like, "Oh man, y'all about to play Baltimore? Can you stop Lamar?" And I'm like, "Man, we stop Lamar, man. He can't throw the ball, bro. Come on, like we can stop the
Mm-hmm.
run." Like
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "I don't know, man. Y'all not so good on the run defense." And I'm like, "All right." And they always give you a challenge at the end of it, like, "Yo, if you can stop Lamar from running 100 yards and passing for 200 yards, you'll get a bonus." And then, at the end of the game, I didn't accomplish any of those things. Um, but yeah, I absolutely know that. Second point is, it's not really a point; it's more of a question. You,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you've been disappointed from these last few games. Um, and I'm just looking through my thing, and I looking through my profile, I guess I haven't really played 2K. So the most current 2K I have is 22. Okay.
Okay.
I guess I really haven't played it because I only have 2.5 hours logged in on this game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was your favorite era of 2K? Like, what was your favorite year? Because before I got 22, my last one was 2K15, and I have 767 hours into that game. Okay. Last played May 22 of last year. Um, Before that, it was NBA 2K13, the Jay Z edition, or executive produced by Jay Z.
Mm-hmm.
673 hours put into it. Last played in 2014. So my question to you, Rodney, what was your favorite? Because obviously 2K is your thing. Okay.
Yep.
Um, when it comes to the sports titles, uh, what was your favorite? Because like I said, I went from 2015 to 2K15 to 2K22. That's a large jump. There's a lot of years between that that I
Uh-huh.
just didn't play. And my philosophy is, if I have a certain sports game, um, like I have no reason to upgrade to Madden 23. Absolutely no
Mm-hmm.
reason. Unless there's something groundbreaking that happens. There for me, there's no I can update rosters all day long. Like you, I don't like to play online. I want to
Mm-hmm.
immerse myself in the experience of managing a franchise, managing a team, managing players, developing them, and seeing what happens in 10 years. Uh, so I can care less about the my player experience. I can care less
Mm-hmm.
about doing the online experience because, quite frankly, I know I suck at Madden when it comes to playing online against people.
Same.
And to be honest with you, I'm not trying to play the single player, the my player experience because I to again, to be quite honest, I find it offensive. Because they always make it this super stereotypical. player that I'm just like, okay, all right,
He's
okay,
made it out the hood and he's gone
right,
through whatever
like
struggles, and
yeah,
you're just
like
like,
it's
all right,
super
all right,
stereotypical. It's just super offensive. So I'm like, all right,
yeah.
whatever. So I don't do my player, and then with all the the money grabs and the loot and everything like that, the virtual money and everything like that. I'm just like, no, I don't care about how the player looks. I just want to play the game. So what was your favorite all time 2K basketball game?
Well, the interesting thing is I'm looking here on Steam right now. Since you mentioned hours, I don't know. I had NBA 2K13, but I guess they weren't clocking hours at that time, right? But I have 274 hours for NBA 2K14. I have 305 hours for NBA 2K15. I have 304 hours for NBA 2K19. I have 428 hours for NBA 2K20.
Mm.
NBA 2K21, I only have 84 hours, but I will say I think I was reluctant to buy 21 and I stayed with 20 way longer. And that's why there's a disparity in that. And then 22, I have only 212 hours. Same thing. I bought this game super late. And then 23, I only have 5 hours. So that kind of tells you how things sit on that side, right? But if you're going to ask me my favorite NBA 2K, I'm going to go with it probably has to be like 19. And the reason okay, so let's make something clear here. My GM was never perfect. There was a lot of cutscenes and talk that wasn't necessary, but it gave you still a better feel because as a GM, you had to sit there, like you said, you had to do pressers. You had your you would have players come to your office talking about, hey, I don't get along with this player. I think our styles are different, or he's playing too close to me. And then there used to be other guys, like star guys, that used to be like, hey, uh, rumor has it you're trading for a center. I don't appreciate that, things like that. And they they kind of made the element of being, like you said, a real GM because you would have these little things you had to deal with it, because your star player is like, look, you draft somebody else, I dare you, I'm out. And you're like, all right, like you said, it's all about the team. I don't care. And that guy would literally not sign with you. He would, especially like he was in his last year, he's like, I won't sign with the team. And then you try,
Mm.
and then you're thinking like, oh, I'll just sign him in the offseason. He won't sign then either. He'll just be like, he'll go somewhere else. And then you're like, oh dang, all because I signed a 70 rating center to back you up, but this is something that you go through, right? So I think that was 19 was the last time they did that, or like, I had a PS4, so I don't know if it's around 16, 17, 18 either. It's right around there. That was like the golden spot where they kind of had this nice little mix of both, So I would say it's somewhere around there. I'll go with 19 just because I see it on my Steam. And I think 19 was great. And I was assuming 20 was to come through the same thing. And then 20 was good because I see I obviously played it a lot, but apparently it because of 20, I didn't want 21 really fast, so I didn't buy 21 anytime soon. And then after I got 21, I didn't want to buy 22 anytime soon. So yeah, I'll say 19. 2K19 was where it was at.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah. All right. So now that we got that all out of the way, uh Mike, we've kind of already hit this over the head, but we got some news. And I'm not gonna look for the article because it's not even really worth it, man. Because what's crazy is this is my beef. You know what? Let's just say it this way. This is my beef with AAA games is that we do all these, they do all this build up for a particular game. And then the game comes out either broken or it under delivers massively. And that could be always online. I'm looking at you, Avengers. It could be you're just doing too much. I'm looking at you, Borderlands 3. Or it's just not the right game at the moment. I'm looking at you, Suicide Squad, and a little bit Gotham Knights, because Gotham Knights and the one game that we assume was going to be the worst of the two is probably the better game as we speak,
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that it just lets you play. And so it has came out this past week that Suicide Squad has been delayed after the furor that took place from the state of play from PlayStation. Now, the the delay officially hasn't been said how long, but rumor has it it's going to be until 2024. And so I listened to a couple of pundits. I am a big fan of a gaming channel called What Culture Gaming, and they were kind of discussing. Well, one of their talking heads was discussing about this game, and they were just saying there's not a lot they can do. They're not going to go like scrap the game, and they're not going to make these massive changes to it. They're probably going to try to take out a lot of that whole, what is it, score system, where you need kind of like how Destiny. Remember, Mike, and Destiny, you had a 100+ weapon, and now you got a
Mm-hmm.
150 weapon. Now you got a 200 weapon to show how strong your weapons are. And there's a lot that they need to try to do to make that game fun, that they can't really go back to the drawing board. And what makes this worse is this is a game from Rocksteady that was just like we were just talking about the Arkham series. And then I didn't really think about this until I listened to that guy the other day. The founders left Rocksteady because Rocksteady's under WB,
Mm-hmm.
but you know some of the thoughts is due to the pressure of WB saying this is what we're looking for in a game. And they were like, you know what, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm out of here. So you have, now that you start to, all that stuff is starting to come out to the woodwork, you're like, this game was doomed from the beginning altogether. And for some reason, DC has wanted there's reports that, excuse me, that they wanted a Suicide Squad game way before even the movies came out. Like, we're talking, let's say 2013, 2014, they were trying to get one off the ground, and it didn't work. And now they finally got one. And to me, like, I remember just looking at that game, just going back and look at that game footage. It's just horrible, in the sense of that you could literally replace all of those characters with just your vanilla army soldier, and that game wouldn't look any different. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't it wouldn't be unique. That's the crappy part about it. It just would not be unique, and it wouldn't even feel like a Suicide Squad game. And that's 8 years. 8 years. So I don't know. I'm done talking about this game, number one. And number two, this game, even though it was already destined for me that I would buy it on discount, it's destined now that, like, unless that game's $10, I'm not buying it. It's just not
Right.
worth it.
Right.
And there's and the other side of this, and this is the other reason why I hate how we treat AAA games, because we spent so much time talking about Suicide Squad that there's some amazing games that probably came out and have not even gotten half of the press, and we have to wait until word of mouth before we finally hear about it. Because, like, I'm if I was to go on YouTube right now and type in Suicide Squad, there's probably over, let's say there's over 2,000 videos of talking heads talking about it being delayed. you know and nobody is talking about some of the other cool stuff that's either on its way out or coming out. Like, I think about, like, Mike, you have that game Returnal. That game, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure, is fun enough that y'all should be talking about it. But nope, we don't hear nothing about it. And there's Dead Space that just came out recently. They gave it its 3 minutes of talk, and we're done. And it's like, come on, we got to do better as a gaming community of just getting some other voices out there, especially because we complain all the time about how AAA games let us down, but then we just go ahead and accept it and wait for the next game to come around.
Right.
and I don't understand that. Anyway, Mike,
Yeah,
what's your
no,
thoughts on all this?
yeah, I mean, I won't waste too much time on it. I feel like games like this, like you said, you don't pay attention to. Rocksteady messed up. They were trying to ride the wave of Destiny, and it's bad. Um, we've seen live service games uh, just this last year or two uh, go into the gutter. They're no longer available. You cannot access them anymore. Um, Destiny is one of those games that is going to be there forever because they're like the pioneers. It's kind of like electric cars, right? Um, there's a ton of electric cars out there right now. Uh, there's like the Lucid and the Rivian, and then you have your major automotive manufacturers like Ford um, and Toyota and Honda that are making EVs. Uh, but if you're trying to get into the game and you're making an EV, the development process takes forever. Okay. And at the end of the day, most of these companies are going down the tubes. Okay. Unless you're a major automotive manufacturer like Ford or Chevy or Toyota or Honda, okay, you can go back and rely on your petrol vehicles, right? Um, in case your EVs don't sell. But like say like Rivian, they put all their eggs into one basket to make this amazing truck. Lucid, they put all their eggs into one basket to make this great, Tesla plaid killer car. Um, and so uh that's great and all. Um, but where are you guys gonna be in a couple of years? Like, is the appeal going to be there? Is it going to be worth it? Who's worth it for? It's Tesla because they've been in the game. They know what they're doing. Tesla is destiny. All right. In this comparison here. So Tesla's going to be all right. All right. Rivian, Lucid, I don't know. I really don't know. They're great vehicles. Um, they have their issues, but right now the cream of the crop is Tesla. Okay, just like in live service games, the cream of the crop is Destiny. And so now you're trying to get into that game with Rocksteady and the people that originated that company to bring you Arkham or whatever, and they're gone. Um, and then you're still trying to tell the people at Rocksteady now you want this game to still tie in because it's supposed to still tie into the Arkham games. Um, that's a hard thing to do. This game's been 7 years in development. Trends
This is also
change.
the game that is supposed to be Kevin Conroy's last role as Batman.
Exactly, and that's terrible.
Hmm.
That sucks because now I feel like I have to buy it because this is the last time I can hear Kevin Conroy. Um, but like you said, I'll wait till it goes. I'll wait. You said $10. I'll wait for it to be $5.
Mm,
Um,
I like it.
and if it's on Game Pass, then I'll just play it on Game Pass.
Hmm.
Um, so uh, Rocksteady really messed up here, and like you said, I've heard this too from other sources. They're not going to revamp. There's no way that they can revamp the game and still have it come out at the end of the year or at the beginning of
Hmm.
2024. There's no way. You can't make it a single player experience like a traditional Arkham game. You've already put your eggs in one basket. Okay, that's a wrap. Um, so to me, the delay is it's kind of okay. I mean, I feel like you guys already got the response that you heard. Um, why delay it? Just put it out there. People are gonna like it or they're gonna hate it, whether you delay it or
Hmm.
not. Um, but from my perspective, and I didn't realize this, from my perspective, I don't think WB cares. So Rocksteady just put it out because you know what? They're making gangbusters on Hogwarts Legacy. Gangbusters.
Hmm.
Hogwarts Legacy has been number one since it came out. So why delay it? Just put it out there. If it sucks, it sucks. Um, okay, we messed up.
Somebody will buy
Whatever.
it. Let's be honest.
Somebody will
Someone
buy
will
it.
buy it.
Yeah,
Yep.
somebody will buy it. Whether the server stays up, who knows? Give it like 2 or 3 years. Uh, but Me personally, I haven't seen any reason to buy this game. No reason. And we talked about, like I said, I'm not going to go into. We talked about this in the last episode. Um, the way it's structured and who they should have gone to in the first place, as far as DC uh, properties. Whether it be Green Lantern or whoever, Blue Beetle, some of these other cats. I think you had
I
mentioned
forgot they were
Green
even
Lantern.
rumored to be doing a Superman game, and they didn't do it.
Yeah. So they had so many different opportunities to go, but it's like those, it's like investors. Oh man, this is it's like cryptocurrency, right?
Mm.
Years ago, cryptocurrency was the heat, and then you couldn't you had to buy it, and then it just completely tanked, and then it creeps back up, and then it tanks again. Like you can't just, if you're gonna look at it, if you're gonna try to get in on a trend, you got to get on it early. You can't have a 7-year development cycle and then put out, like, what did you see, Rodney? What did you see in that video that they played at the PlayStation event that was worth 7 years of development? I'm not even talking about just like the graphics, because that didn't look like 7 years of development. There was nothing groundbreaking about that. What about the gameplay? Looked like it took 7 years of development for. If you're telling me that Rocksteady, the people that made the Arkham games, had 7 years to make a game about killing the Justice League, which is ambitious. Okay. If it had been anybody other than the Suicide Squad, okay, I could have even taken the Legion of, was it the Legion of Doom or whatever? That's wrestling, right? But anyway, like 7 years, and this is what you have to put forward. No. I'll wait till it's $5 or less, or I'll play it for free on Game Pass. So, but like you said, people are gonna buy it, whether or not they stay on it, because people can buy it, but their game is going to be dependent on how many people are still active on their servers.
Yep.
Okay. So if you have an initial 100 people buying it, and then a year later only 2 people are still active on the server, then they're not going to continue it.
No, because look at Avengers has been out only 3 years, and it's already the servers are being turned off within, I think, a couple months. So
yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, and that's an Avengers game. Like that's an Avengers game. That's what makes it so terrible. It's like you didn't have to do this. And
I wonder,
to be honest,
I wonder, Rodney, if when this game comes out and people play it, I know you said that Avengers is going down, but if they weren't, I wonder if people go to play Suicide Squad, they're like, "Oh man, this is garbage, man, let's go check out Marvel Avengers." Like, could that have eventually saved Marvel Avengers because Suicide Squad Kill of the Justice League was that bad?
That is funny.
Because you know what, Rodney? Like, at least with Marvel Avengers, I never played the game, but did you feel like the characters that you played with were unique enough that you didn't feel like you were playing the same cookie cutter character? Because in the gameplay footage that we've seen from Suicide Squad, you might as well, it looks like they're just skins.
Yeah,
there's
I
nothing
agree.
unique about the people.
They're just Unreal skins, basically. Yeah.
Right.
No, so with Marvel's Avengers, I felt like I was really Iron Man, Hulk, whoever you want to say. Of course, Hulk and Thor are modified because they can die from get knocked out from taking a hit in certain situations. But I felt like each character was unique. The downside about Marvel's Avengers was that their levels were extremely mediocre, and you didn't even you fought robots the whole time, and you didn't even fight other superpowered. Well, I mean, you fought like Abomination, but you didn't fight many superpowered beings to begin with, and that was unfortunate. And that to me was totally, I think, the reason why that game went downhill. Because like, how do you have the Avengers Rogue Gallery and you still don't use them or utilize them? So that was unfortunate for that, but that's why that game, to me personally, is not more revered because of how that act. But you're right. Suicide Squad is literally just like having a skin on the game. You could almost make that game look like Halo and just put that skin on there and call it Suicide Squad, just from the way things are going. But yeah, that's yeah, we'll see how things turn out. You know,
Real,
I don't expect anything good from this game. And no, let me change how I say that. I think Rocksteady will do the best that they can. And then I'm a bit concerned that we'll hear rumblings about how Rocksteady has now been dissolved and kind of been
mm,
put into the WB fold
oh
in
boy,
places that they think are more profitable. Just
oh boy,
because I just think about who was the guys who did GoldenEye back in the day.
right,
They Rare. I remember
yeah.
when Rare was big, when they had Banjo Kazooie and they had all these games, and then all of a
They
sudden
did Perfect
Rare
Dark
just
too, didn't they?
perfect. I think they did Perfect Dark as well. And you were like, man, Rare can never be stopped. And then before you know it, I think they had a couple busts, and then you heard the rumblings, and next I think Rare got bought to Microsoft as well.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft had them for like 2 years, and they were like, "Yes, we are going to just go ahead and we're always thinking of how we're going to structure the company, and we're going to just go ahead and dissolve Rare and move them under blah blah blah." And you were like,
Hmm.
"Oh, come on, what are you guys doing?" So I could definitely see that more than anything else. And I don't want that for Rocksteady, but this is a what have you done for me lately type of economy or whatever when it comes to gaming. So I can definitely
Real,
see it.
real quick before we move on, Rodney.
Hmm.
I was just thinking about this as far as like live service games and that whole genre, and even just with games now. You think of like games like Gran Turismo for the PlayStation, um, or games like Fortnite that require you to put in money um to get and it's really just cosmetic details at this point. um and I'm looking through my Steam account, and I sorted it by most hours played. Okay, and do you know what game I have the most hours played in?
What's that?
Take a wild guess.
I'm gonna say 7 Days to Die.
Okay, so you're close as far as type of game. It is a
Okay.
multiplayer game. Okay, one game that I have the most hours of any other game that requires you, and actually I should say requires you, but encourages you to give money to. They have
Hmm.
DLCs up the wazoo. Okay, Payday 2.
Payday. Yes,
Okay,
I thought about it. Payday.
yep,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have 1,044.8 hours into
Mm,
that game. Okay,
mm,
uh, if I could see how much money I've spent on Payday 2,
mm.
it's well, I will say it's well over $100. Okay. And I'm sure people be, well, Mike, why did you spend over $100 on this game? Whatever, man. Look, when you buy into Payday, you're not just getting, different kinds of masks or whatever. You're not just getting the John Wick character. You're
Hmm.
getting new weapons. You're getting
Yep.
new gadgets. You're getting
Hmm.
new missions, new maps. Okay. It's new content. Okay. The weapons you're getting are tactical. Okay, it's not just guns, it's knives and grenades and all kinds of stuff. Rodney, I don't understand why modern games now don't do this. Okay, how is Payday 2? Okay, Payday 2. Um, I don't understand why modern games now haven't done this. I thought it was gonna pull it up, but it didn't. Um, when I bought this game, it was probably I don't know, $30, right? Um, this game came out in 2013. All right. Uh, and we haven't played it in a minute just because obviously we haven't had time. Logistically, it's crazy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look at to see the type of content they have, all right, they've got 78 different items, different content on here, 78 different DLCs. All right. 78. Um, and they're still putting out weapons packs from 2013. We might have to get back into this.
Oh, I'm
Um,
down. Anytime you are, I'm down.
I don't understand why more companies don't do this. You can make
Well,
tons of money.
I would just retort and say that they think that they are doing it. The thing is,
Right,
they're just not doing it correctly, right? Like,
right.
so I think what has made payday is the fact that I feel like I have received meaningful DLCs and content from them that makes my overall experience fun. Because I look at Apex Legends and it's basically and Fortnite for that matter, and it's just skins. It doesn't change it doesn't change what you're actually playing. And personally, I because of that, I don't want to pay that money for a skin or whatever in those games because it doesn't do anything different to the game itself. It doesn't, and then there's other games. We'll go back to Avengers. Avengers was like, hey, you can buy different costumes like $1.99 each. Why would I buy another costume in Avengers? For a game that is again extremely bland and you want to go and nickel and dime me for everything. Whereas I played Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 and on the PC, and they gave me every suit humanly possible. So and then let's even take it back to Battlefront. Battlefront got little got kind of stupid because they would never give you a case that was, that had anything good in it. And then by the time Battlefield 2 came out, they're telling you to pay for Darth Vader. Come on. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And making these ecosystems like that makes it even worse because you're talking about keep me on the internet for what? Oh, so like for example, Suicide Squad. I guarantee you they're gonna try to sell you some weapons, sell you some skins, and then make some money off of it. But why would I do that for Suicide Squad? Because
Mhm.
it's not going to make the game any more fun. And then you're going to give me a DLC that's only like 30 minutes long. You're not going to put any effort into it. And it's basically a level that you didn't get opportunity to pan out in the actual game itself. And then you're just going to now use, no, I'm good. Like, and I'm speaking not only as a 40-year-old man, I'm also, if this was my 30s, I wouldn't do it. I would barely do it in my 20s. It just seems to me like, matter of fact, you want to know the game that got me for money other than Payday 2 was 2K. When I used to play my player and I wanted to get the VCs to build up my character a whole lot
Right,
faster to
right,
get up to an
right,
80 or a 90
right,
and all that good stuff. But then after a while, you realize, well, if I play my league or my GM enough, you're going to give me enough VC doing that. Then I don't have to do my player right away.
right.
But for me to pay money, but then here's the thing. I paid money to get my rating up to play the game. I didn't use my money to buy tattoos, a shirt, a hat, or whatever. Right? That was and if I did do that, that was due to VC that I earned playing the game. It wasn't out of my wallet. So I don't understand how much more in this economy, and I'm just saying, in this economy with inflation and everything, how much more are you expecting consumers to pay for just a skin? I know
Right.
my 11-year-old will, but you got another thing coming if you think I will. Not happening.
Right. It's the
You
young
know.
bucks. It's the young bucks.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I remember my
Cause I
daughter
had to
was
whooping
like,
butts, man.
yeah, my daughter came to me and was like, hey, I'm playing this game. I think it's called Gotcha World. And like a shirt is like $3 in that game. And I'm like, but I was like, is it for you or is it for the game? It's for the game. It's like, but why would you spend $3 on a shirt for you know, and but because I want something different. Okay, and it's just like,
Yeah,
but here I am speaking as someone who's my age is different. It brings her enjoyment. I get it. I just don't think I just think like this level of capitalism when it comes to games is getting super ridiculous.
it
And and
is.
and for you to give me crappy product. Like you can't
It
even
is.
give me a serviceable, working, fun, enjoyable game on release date without you saying, oops, my bad, we need to patch. And then it takes you a month to patch, whatever fixes that need to be done on a standard game. And then Cyberpunk 2077, I'm looking at you, a year and a half to 2 years. That game came out during the freaking pandemic. And still to this day, you're like, hey, my bad. There's still things we're working on in this game to make it better.
Right.
But I still love that game. So it won't forever get a pass in my heart. But I will definitely never stop criticizing the industry for
FYI,
some of the junk.
FYI, Cyberpunk is now verified on the Steam Deck.
Oh yes. Oh
I just saw that
yes.
the other day ago. So I'm
I do
interested
need to
to
I need to play it again on the Steam Deck because I have
yeah,
not.
I'm
I've
interested to
only
see
played it.
I think I might download that tonight. I'm interested to see what it looks like now that it's verified. That and
Yeah.
Elden Ring are now verified on Steam Deck actually.
Yeah,
So
Elden Ring was a little difficult last time I tried to play it on Steam Deck. But if I could
I'm
play
curious to
that,
see what it looks like.
yeah, yeah. I will say though, Mike, because we were talking about controllers last week. I did buy one of those new Xbox controllers, the wireless ones,
Mhm.
and I use it for my PC. And this is the most comfortable controller I've ever used. And this is not even the
It's
one
my
that you
go-to
were telling me
controller.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my go-to controller. It's why I'm gonna get the Xbox Elite Pro 2, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Simply because I can customize it to whatever I wanted to, and then B,
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not much into it, but I need my back pedals.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I utilize my back pedals on the Steam Deck,
Mm-hmm.
and to go to a gamepad that doesn't have back pedals is hard.
Yep.
But in 100% agreement with you. The Xbox controller is by far the best. Um, and that's coming from a guy who I haven't used a new PS5 DualSense yet. I understand that's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be really good. But from a guy who uses a lot of other third-party controllers, especially 8-bit do, and I love 8-bit do controllers. Uh, the heft, I love the heft to the weight of the Xbox controller.
Mm.
Um, and I did it, and I'm a traditional PlayStation guy.
Mm.
So having the sticks on one plane really worked for me. Um,
Mm.
but switching over to the Xbox, and it's like that with the Steam Deck, right? The sticks are on the same plane, they're not offset.
Yeah.
Uh, Having it offset on the Xbox actually feels pretty good. So yeah, no, I the only thing my only gripe with and this will be fixed when I get my Pro controller. I don't like the D-pad on the controller.
Mm.
Um, I want a more traditional D-pad, and so I can get that with the Pro controller. You have an option to
Mm.
switch it out from that weird
Sunken in feel
hexagonal.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I want a traditional gamepad or D-pad. Otherwise, yes, I completely agree with you. I love the texture of it too.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I
That
love the
was
texture of
one
it
of my
too.
things. Mike, since
Um,
we're having this conversation, tell me the worst controller you use and the best controller you've used.
okay, yeah. So,
Or if you want to, I can start since I came up with the ideal to give you some time to think about it.
well, no. So the worst controller that I probably have right now,
Hmm.
uh, and I'll I'm just gonna put it back to the Nintendo Switch. I
Okay.
hate the Joy Cons. Absolutely hate
Same.
them. I actually had to buy a third party Joy-Con. I can't remember the name of the company. They're a popular company.
Hmm.
In fact, it's the same company that you got your third party Joy-Cons from.
The
Um,
worry.
Yeah, Hori. That's who it is.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
bought a Hori Zelda edition left Joy-Con that had a more traditional, uh, had a more traditional um, D-pad on it instead of the, because the way the Joy-Cons are set up is for multiple people to take them off and play on whatever. I absolutely hate it. It's the worst thing. I don't know anybody who has really used that. Even like
Hmm.
we look at YouTubers, no one uses that. Like it's just
Hmm.
it's honestly a gimmick. So that's my worst by far. Uh,
Hmm.
my favorite, like I just said, is probably the Microsoft Xbox controller. Um,
Hmm.
before that, I was all into 8-bit do. I still am. I love 8-bit do. I have an 8-bit do that has twin sticks that's fashioned after the Super Nintendo controller. Um, so Jen loves to play with that one when we play Mario Party. It fits her perfectly. But
Hmm.
it's fashioned after the Super Nintendo controller, but it has twin sticks on there as well, and it has shoulder and trigger buttons. And then they have their PlayStation esque controllers. I actually just bought their newest version. It's a clear purple controller, and it actually has back button paddles, and then you have a switch on there that you can switch between uh, iOS, Android, Switch, and PC. So
Hmm.
that's really nice. So I that was my top one for a while, but my absolute favorite one right now is the Microsoft Xbox controller.
Okay. So just because since you already said Joy Cons, I'm going to counter that by saying the original Microsoft Xbox controller was my worst, was the one I hated the most. And the reason I hated it was because it was oversized. And hey,
Oh,
I have,
you're digging deep. Okay, all right.
yeah, so I was, I have normal size hands to large hands, whatever, and all that other stuff. But even with that, it felt like my fingers was really stretching out to try to to hit certain buttons when you're playing certain games. And if I want to keep it 100, I would even throw the Wii controller in there as one of my worst controllers.
Oh
Because
yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh my gosh.
now, look, if
Oh,
we're talking about a game where you're bowling or playing tennis, perfect. But if you're trying to play a platform game, you're using that controller. To me, by far, one of the worst controllers I ever used. And you know, it never. You literally should have buy another controller for those games, which weren't cheap at all. For stuff like that. So yeah, by far one of those were by far the worst controllers I ever used in games. This one's gonna come. I'm really taking it back with this one, but this is one of my favorite controllers. When I had a Sega Genesis, we had a third party controller that had a turbo button. And it sounds like
mm.
nothing now, right? But back then, to have a controller with a turbo button, especially one that you could turn on and off, was important for particular games that you played, especially like shooters and stuff like that, or whatever. There were certain games where the most interactive thing about the game is that you're tapping a particular button over and over and over and over and over again, like a million times, and you get so tired doing it and all that stuff that by the time that turbo controller go out, when you got to that part, you just click, turned it on. Yeah, it's cheap, but guess what? I still have my knuckles. So it was definitely one of those things where you're like, okay, I I need something to help me out. So yeah, that was one of my favorite controllers, and it brings up some good memories because there was definitely shooters that we used to play back in the day, and all the other stuff, and it was so cheap. It was cheaper than getting the actual regular controller. That I don't
Well,
remember who used to make it.
so let me ask you this, and I know
Uh huh.
it's more of a pick up and play for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have and I'm gonna throw this into the ring too. The
Mm-hmm.
Steam Deck layout
Mm-hmm.
as far as controllers, I think is fantastic. I love The
Yes,
back
yes, and
buttons and the
y-
trackpads.
it's
Um,
one of my favorite controllers too.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But the thing that really sets it apart, and I've actually seen this with a lot of controllers now.
Hmm.
The fact that you could map buttons to anything, and not just map buttons, but map what they do. Um,
Hmm.
so what you were talking about with that Sega Genesis third party, you could do now. So I actually do it with Dying Light. Okay. When you play Dying Light and a zombie gets on you, you gotta rapidly hit the A button to get them off you. Well,
Hmm.
look, I'm in my 40s. I ain't trying to keep doing that and get carpal tunnel, right? Um,
Yep.
so I set a certain button and I set the action to repeat it, do that exact same thing you were just talking about, so that I don't have to do that. So my question is, have you thought about going into either A, your Steam settings, or B, if you have a controller that you're gonna get? Because I have to look into this. I'm not sure the Pro Controller does it. I assume it does. Um,
Hmm.
if you were to buy a controller in the future that has that functionality
Hmm.
to map the buttons however you want it to do whatever you want to do, would you do it?
Oh yeah, no doubt. And there's you're right. There's not many games I've had to customize, but if there was a game where I just knew like it was just consistently happening, yeah, I would definitely change my settings to kind of get that out the way. Because same thing, I don't think I have arthritic hands, but I'm pretty close. I would assume
Right.
from all the gaming I've done throughout throughout my time, because my hands do get stiff. So I'm sure there's some degenerative, you know, arthritis happening there a little bit. But regardless, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. But I've loved the Steam's layout. I will say every so often I do get upset when I'm doing something and I accidentally hit the trackpad and it then, whatever. But it's nothing that's going to make me say that this is unplayable. It's just
Mhm.
you get so spirited into a particular game, you just end up actually grazing it. Next, your character's doing something awkward that you don't want it to be doing at this moment in time. But it's all good. It's no complaints. But with that being said, it's time for us to go. I know you always want us to stay longer, but guess what? We can't. Just can't, because we got small children that have to be taken care
Yep.
of,
Yep.
right?
I just looked
And
at the
so
monitor. The baby's up right now, so
there you go. That's what I'm saying,
she's
right?
looking at the camera like, "Yo, where you at, bro?"
And so this has been another episode of Nation80 Podcast. We will be back next week with more stuff to go over. Until then, y'all keep your imagination up, and we will see you in the next one.